Across the southern coast of Iran, where the Persian Gulf meets the land, lies a cultural world shaped by the sea, centuries of travel and beliefs that have survived across generations. On islands such as Qeshm and in coastal communities of Hormozgan, people have long told stories about invisible forces known as Bābā or winds. In this traditional worldview, certain winds can affect human beings, causing illness, discomfort, distress, or profound changes in their physical and emotional condition. These beliefs were documented in one of the most important Iranian ethnographic works on the subject, Ghulam Hossein Saidi's Ahl-e Havā, published in 1969 and usually translated as People of the Wind. Saidi documented beliefs and practices surrounding spirit possession along the southern coast of Iran. But the winds are not all imagined in the same way. Some are considered benevolent, others dangerous. Some are believed to be Muslim, while others are described as non-Muslim. And among these supernatural forces is Zar, a particularly dangerous kind of wind associated with illness and spirit possession in southern Iranian belief. And when a person is believed to have been affected by a Zar, the solution is not necessarily to destroy or drive the spirit away. Instead, the aim is to appease it and reach an agreement with it through music, through incense, through movement, and through ritual. Welcome to the world of Zar. The story of Zar is also a story of movement across the Indian Ocean. For centuries, maritime routes connected East Africa, Arabia, the Persian Gulf, and the southern coast of Iran. Ships carried goods across these waters, but they also carried people, and people carried their languages, music, memories, and beliefs with them. The story of the southern Iranian coast is closely connected to the movement of African people across the Indian Ocean, including people who arrived through the slave trade. African communities subsequently became part of the social and cultural landscape of southern Iran. This history is important when we talk about Zar. Zar traditions are found in parts of Africa and the Middle East, including Ethiopia, Sudan, Egypt, and Arabian Peninsula, and southern Iran. Scholars widely discuss African influences on Iran's Zar, but there is an important distinction. We cannot say with certainty that Zar was invented in Ethiopia and then brought to Iran. The ultimate origin of Zar tradition and even the origin of its name have been debated. What we can say is that Zar in southern Iran developed within a much wider African, Arabian, Persian Gulf, and Indian Ocean cultural environment, and that African cultural connections are an important part of its story. Over generations, the tradition developed its own Iranian forms. The winds acquired local names, personalities, histories, and characteristics, and the people who lived with these beliefs developed their own ways of communicating with them. Who are the people of the wind? This brings us to another fascinating expression, Ahl-e Havā. Literally, it can be translated as people of the wind or people of the air. But in the Iranian Zar tradition, it is more than a poetic expression. Saidi's ethnographic account describes a social world organized around people who have experienced these winds and the ritual specialists who know how to deal with them. Later, anthropological analysis of Ahl-e Havā describes how the afflicted, the winds, and ritual specialists are connected through a system of symptoms, beliefs, and negotiation. the person is not simply regarded as sick. Within this cultural framework, something has happened to them. A wind has affected them. And so the ritual becomes a way to decode what has taken place and a sacred attempt to bring back balance. And now about the ceremony. The details of a Zar ceremony are not identical everywhere. They have changed over time, and different communities have their own practices, but ethnographic accounts from Qeshm Island describe two broad stages: separation and incorporation. The first stage begins when an afflicted person seeks help from a Bābā Zar or Māmā Zar, the male or female ritual specialist. Depending on the practitioner and the circumstances, the person may spend a period in isolation before the main ceremony. During this period, traditional preparations can include washing and the application of aromatic herbs and spices. Then comes the ceremony itself. People gather around the afflicted person. A cloth is spread on the ground. Objects such as eggs, dates, aromatic herbs, and other offerings may be placed there. The person's head may be covered with a white cloth, and incense is burned, filling the space with fragrance and smoke. The atmosphere changes. The ordinary world begins to feel distant. And then the music begins. In Zar, music is not simply an accompaniment to the ritual. It is part of the ritual's language. The Bābā Zar or Māmā Zar leads the musical performance together with the musicians and participants. Drums establish the rhythm, the leader sings, others respond. And the songs or incantations may not always be understandable as ordinary language. Ethnographic accounts describe performances using different languages or dialects, as well as vocal sounds without recognizable words. Most importantly, different winds are believed to respond to different pieces of music. The musicians may change a rhythm or melody until the afflicted person reacts. The reaction can appear through the body. The upper body begins to sway, the head moves, the shoulders shake, and the person feels an increasingly powerful urge to move. Within this belief system, this reaction helps reveal which wind is present. And now the dance begins. The movements of Zar are not a rehearsed choreography like a stage dance. They emerge within the ritual. The participant may sway, shake, move the head and shoulders, or dance intensely with the rhythm. This state is associated with trance and is sometimes described through the Persian term jazbeh. To an outside observer, the movement may look extraordinary, but within the ritual, it has a purpose. The body has become the medium through which the wind is believed to reveal itself. And the music continues, the rhythm continues, and the Bābā or Māmā Zar watches carefully. Because once the wind has revealed itself, the negotiation can begin. According to the beliefs documented in southern Iran, the ritual specialist communicates with the wind through the afflicted person. And the wind may reveal what it wants in exchange for leaving the person in peace. Its demands can vary. They may be relatively simple, such as prayers or a particular object, or they may involve a more substantial offering or sacrifice. The healer then makes a form of binding, traditionally involving a piece of cloth tied around the person's arm, symbolizing the agreement that the wind's demands will be fulfilled. The The underlying idea is remarkably different from the image of an exorcist fighting a demon. The wind is not necessarily destroyed, it is appeased. The objective is to reach a state in which the wind no longer harms the person. In other words, the ritual is a negotiation with the invisible. So, what does Zar mean as healing? Today, it is important to make a distinction between traditional belief and modern medicine. There is no scientific evidence that supernatural winds literally enter human bodies and cause illness, but dismissing Zar simply as superstition would also miss what makes the tradition culturally significant. Anthropologists have studied Zar as a culturally structured way of understanding suffering, possession, illness, and healing. Qeshm Island's analysis of Saidi's book, Ahl-e Havā, for example, examines the relationships between the possessing winds, the afflicted person, ritual specialists, symptoms, and the negotiations that take place during the ritual, what the community itself understands as a form of therapy. The ritual creates a social space in which suffering can be expressed. The community gathers, music gives a structure to the experience, movement gives the body a way to participate, and the individual is not left to face the experience alone. So rather than calling Zar scientifically proven art therapy, it is more accurate to describe it as a traditional, culturally meaningful healing practice that has been studied by anthropologists as a form of ritual therapy. That distinction matters because we can respect the cultural meaning of Zar without presenting its supernatural explanation as medical fact. Perhaps the most beautiful part of Zar is that the ritual has preserved a musical world of its own. Drums, voices, repetitive rhythms, movement, incense, and the collective response of the people gathered around the afflicted person. Some instruments and musical practices vary between regions, which is another reason not to describe one fixed Zar orchestra for the whole of southern Iran. The important point is the relationship between rhythm and trance. The leader knows the music associated with different winds. The participants recognize the rhythms and the afflicted person responds. The music becomes a form of communication, a language without a dictionary. Zar has never been completely static. Its practices have changed from one region to another and across generations. Encyclopedia Iranica notes that Saidi documented Zar along the Persian Gulf coast from Bushehr to Bandar Lenge, but by the time of later research, it was no longer practiced in some places and was more actively observed in Qeshm than in Bandar Abbas. The details of the ceremonies have also changed over time. Modernization, changing social attitudes, and the development of modern healthcare have all affected traditional possession rituals. Yet Zar has not simply vanished. Researchers continue to document the tradition, particularly on Qeshm Island and in other southern coastal communities. And what survives is more than a ritual. It is a memory of the coast, a memory of migration, a memory of African-Iranian history, a memory preserved through music. Now imagine the ceremony one more time. The incense rises, the people gather, the drums begin, a voice answers, the rhythm grows stronger, a body begins to move. To the outside world, the wind cannot be seen, but within the belief system of Zar, it has become present. It has a name, it has a character, it has demands, and now it has a voice. Perhaps that is why Zar has survived for so long, because it gives a language to something human beings have always struggled to explain. Suffering that has no easy name. Whether we understand the wind as a supernatural being, a cultural belief or a symbolic language through which people experience illness and distress, the ritual tells us something profound about the community that created it. They did not simply try to silence suffering. They gave it a rhythm. They gave it a voice. They gathered around it and they tried to negotiate with the invisible. So when the final drum beat fades and the movement finally becomes still, the wind, according to the belief, has been appeased, and the person can return to the community. Perhaps this is the deepest meaning of Zar, not simply to drive the wind away, but to find a way to live with it.